What is going on, guys? Troken here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Draw Phase. And in today's deck, we're going to time warp our way to victory. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I said it. Time warp. Gimmicky card, but honestly, extremely powerful. Dude, there's so many different ways you can win the game with Time Warp. It's not just, double holding with a Time Warp. There's so many different things you could do. We'll go over all that in just a second. But before that, if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're one of the first 500 subscribers, as soon as we reach that threshold, I will be giving away a Proving Grounds box set to one of you lucky winners. So, you press a button, you might win a thing. Also, a few announcements. We'll be switching over to Tabletop Simulator in a couple days. Pixelborn is shutting down, unfortunately. So look out for that content. It's going to be really cool. I made a Discord so that we could meet up in the lobby and meet up with some games and play. For those that are watching, if you have Tabletop Simulator, please, join the Discord. Link is in the description. It's still like, rough bones, bare bones and everything. But, I'll get it up and going. It's just something that we can communicate with and enter the games with the same lobby, password information, blah, blah, blah. So I've talked for enough, and let's get into the deck list. So if we go here, I got a hold on, collection. Yeah, so let's talk about Time Warp first, because then this whole entire deck's around it. So it's, first of all, the art's really cool. It is the most expensive card in the game. But therefore, you take a turn after this one, and it does get banished, so you can't bring it back. We're running 3 of them because there are instances where you can do more than one. Honestly, like the way the deck is built, it ensures that using 4 power is not a problem, and using 10 runes is also not a problem. Yeah. Strong card, hard to play. It's not easy. Like, you do have to get ahead on points and ahead on the board, which is why we run some early minions, and when you do, you can kind of like navigate your way through the game with a bunch of removal to score those points, hold, time warp, or time warp to stop your opponent from drawing a card using all of their resources, and then they have no answers to the stuff that you're doing because you do get an extra turn. Also, with Time Warp, don't forget, we are running, it is a Lux deck, so when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, you get to draw one. So initially, when you play Time Warp, you get to draw a card, and then you get to draw a card for your turn. So that's two cards, and yeah, you're just in situations where from there, you can pretty much win the game. You'll see in the gameplay coming up that I Time Warped, right, controlled the board, and split my units up so I could double hold. One got removed, and I just had enough answers in my hand that there's nothing that they could do. So it doesn't necessarily have to win the game just by a double hold or just holding. Sometimes they use up their resources, their reaction speed stuff, and then they have nothing that they could do, and they're just locked out of the situation to kind of like counter your attack. So really strong. It needs some tweaking, but still, dude, it's doable. It really is. Like, it's not that far-fetched of a deck. Its win rate is relatively low just because there are a lot of aggressive decks out there. I did beat a set with it, which is like relatively impressive because set's like such a powerhouse in the meta right now. But yeah, really cool, and it works. So let's get to the rest of the cards. We're running 5 Order runes and 7 mind runes. The 7 mind runes is really important. Try not to mess this mana curve up, or rune curve rather, because you want to be able to get all the order runes out, right? So that when you are like channeling stuff with like Soaring Scout, or you're drawing for your turn, your mind runes are there. Your mind runes, you're always to be cycling or readying them, or channeling them rather. So yeah, really important to have more mind runes and order runes, and I'll get to that in a second. Obelisk of Power, ramping up at your first turn. That's what we need to do. We need to get to like emptying our rune deck and having them all ready as soon as possible. Reaver's Row is really important because sometimes you just want to score a point with units that you want to like not die, like Heimeldinger or Lux, right? But you have the option to retreat, let them score a point. That's fine. just as long as you're saving some important units. Void Gate, it is like the way you kind of navigate the deck in the early game. is by just keeping their side of the board nice and clean, right? So that extra bonus damage is a huge breakpoint in a lot of units, especially with when it comes to sets, buffing ability, or the buff deck that they run. That 1 point of damage kind of negates their +1 on their might. We are running a gimmicky deck in Karthus, right? Believe it or not, it's actually really good. So you are burning, I'm sorry, an Order Rune, which is fine. But honestly, if you're burning Order Rune and you know a Soaring Scout's dying, you're channeling 2 runes anyway, so it kind of like mitigates it. So it's really good, really consistent. This is essentially for either scoring points or triggering 2 Soaring Scout Death Knell abilities and channeling a rune Exhausted and drawing 2 cards with Watchful Sentry. A lot of people think it's like not that great of a combo, but honestly, it's really, you gain a lot of tempo by doing that. We're running 3 Lux, obviously, because that reaction speed for 4, and we're not burning any powers, which is really important. The might doesn't really mean anything. It's never going to really fight or like kill anything on board, honestly. But a reaction speed you can add 2. You can only use it to play spells, but you know, with such a heavy spell with Time Warp, sometimes they have answers and reactions, not necessarily counter, but to like kind of like, okay, they're gonna Time Warp, so let me kill off the Lux. Then you can have things like retreat to pop off on to just protect your Lux a little bit. And yeah, so that's like kind of like the main thing. Oh yeah, retreats in the deck just necessarily to protect your Lux, because that's really important. And then Heimerdinger. So when you're in a situation where you have 2 Luxes on your base and you pop down a Heimerdinger, there's not much that your opponent can do at that point anymore to kind of stop you from adding 4 extra runes, because this copies any ability of a friendly legend, tap ability of a friendly legend, units, and gears. So we'll talk about the units and then gears that coincide with Heimerdinger in just a second. But obviously with Lux, you know, 2-4, if you got 2 on board, 6, 7. So yeah, you can potentially, if you have all 3 Luxes out and all your Heimerdingers out, that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 runes already channeling, and that's ridiculous. That's insane. That's an insane amount of runes for to cast spell for. We are running Cold a week to kind of like keep their board nice and tight early game, and even so, if we have Karthus on board and usually have like Watchful Sentry or Soaring Scout, then they could just you can sacrifice them. Their Death Knell ability triggers twice. If you don't have Karthus out, triggers once. But you're getting rid of a big threat, especially in Kaisa, right? Like the 4-drop is so clean, the Kaisa champion unit. It doesn't burn a power, you know, and when it conquers, it can accelerate. That early game, like Cold of the Week, just gets rid of it really easily. Anything else like big that's dropped that they only have one on the one side, only 1 unit on board, it pretty much just takes care of everything. Soaring Patron to kind of like trigger off of Karthus and any type of Death Knell ability. Sometimes you just need that like 6 might, honestly. Like I played it without Cruel Patron, like there's a version of this deck without it, but I put it in there because sometimes like you just need that might on board, because sometimes they're just like, you know, being super aggressive, and sometimes they just can't come over that 6 might break point. So that triggers well off our Death Knell abilities, and Blast of Power for some like hard removal. Kill a unit at a battlefield at action speed. So if it's their turn, this card actually helped me win the game, because the other opponent, you know, I held a Time Warped, right? He could move in to take away that hold for the next turn. However, Blast of Power stopped it from happening, so that's very good. Running Seal of Insights, I could only fit 2 in the deck because all the other tools in the deck I really need. This obviously helps mitigate Time Warp's heavy power cost by 2, right? And if you do have the other 2 Heimerdingers out and you just need to do some like rune math, then it's all 4, right? So you don't have to commit to so much power, and you can save. You tap the 2 seals, right? And you tap you tap your 2 Heimerdingers if they're out there. Chances are not. But you completely negate the power cost of Time Warp, and you can just play multiple and one after another. Hold, double hold. You can score 6 points, which is insane. If you if you play all three, but like chances are you can maybe only play one or two. Running retreat, like I said, to protect some of the units that you need on board. For instance, obviously your Luxes, and your Eager Apprentice too, something you want to hold on to. You know, Eager Apprentice, 3 rune cost unit, 3 might. When I'm at a battlefield, energy cost for spells you play is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. So again, we just want to try and get Time Warp as cheap as possible with as many resources as possible in Heimerdingers, in energy conduits, and in seals. Stupefy, it's kind of like a low impact card sometimes. So, you know, you might be able to trade with some of your units, but honestly, just the drawing one is really important because they're looking for answers, or drawing into a Time Warp is really important. Smokescreen is more for the battle tricks, right? Sometimes -4 is really strong, especially at reaction speed. Kind of takes care of like any type of big threats, especially in set, right? Or volley bear. You know, -4 in a 5 might unit so that it trades with Watchful Sentry or Soaring Scout is really, really good. Other than that smokescreen, we talked about Watchful Sentry, we talked about Eager Apprentice. Energy Conduit's like another gear in the deck. You can play it off of Heimendinger as well. Reaction speed, add 1. You know, you just want as many energy resources in runes as possible, and this gear is really strong. It's a little slow. Sometimes if you do get Power of Obelisk down, and it is in your opening hand, you're able to play it right away, so therefore you've ramped consistently for the rest of the game with an extra rune on board, available for units or spells. After that, excuse me, we have Falling Comet. Really good card. Fits perfectly in Lux because it is a 5-cost card, remember, so the legend ability will be able to trigger, right? And you get to draw a card and do 6 damage for 5 might without any risk of spending any power. Is extremely strong. 6 damage is just really good. If you get on Void Gate, it's a 7. Cleans up a lot of stuff. And yeah, it's just like, you know, really clean, fair card. Really good. It's like one of the best removals for Lux. Singularity, it is 6 damage up to 2 units, right? So remember, you can't double up on this for 1 unit. It does 6 damage to 1 unit and does 6 damage to another unit. That's really important to notice. One of the stronger removals because it can target 2 units. So if they're like trying to win by double holding, you can clean up the battlefields really nicely. It is costing you 2 power, but hopefully we'll be having the seals on board or Heimdingers to kind of mitigate that damage, or mitigate that resource cost. However, sometimes you just need to get a little ahead or stop them from winning the game, and you need to sacrifice those 2 powers. Still a really strong removal card for Lux, and also triggers with the legend ability, so you get to draw the card. Obviously, the main point of the deck, Time Warp, which we talked about, and we are also running Final Spark. Like, you can get this down really cheap. Like, if you have 2 Luxes and an Eager Apprentice, right? That's 2, 4. You know, you can get down to 3. You can play this for 3. You know, by tapping your Luxus twice, that adds 4 floating, and then Eager Apprentice on the battlefield gets it down to 3. That's really good, and especially 8 damage, and then also triggers off Lux's ability. Now, this deck is relatively hard to navigate. It is not easy. You have to be very patient. It's very you have to make a lot of decisions on what to play, when to move, when to score points, when you have removal in hand. It is still a lot of fun, and it is very challenging, and that's like kind of like the point of the game, right? I like to play decks that don't necessarily work the best or not really consistent. However, once you learn how to play the deck, that you pop off with a big combo with like Time Warp, it is just so much fun, and it is so gratifying. Like, I think I played like 3 games, struggled, and then the 4th game, like, I popped off. Like, that is awesome and gratifying. So, with that being said, give it a try. Give it a try, guys. The deck list will be in the description along with my Discord. Like I said before, we're going to be switching to Tabletop Simulator. Don't forget to subscribe to enter yourself to win a Proving Grounds box set. And I've talked I've talked way too much, so thank you very much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. You all have a wonderful day and enjoy the gameplay. Peace. Hey, a set. Finally, not a Kaisa, which is pretty cool. All right, maybe, I don't know, dude. The thing is, set's like really hard to beat too. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. Let's see if we can time warp our way to victory. Obelisk of Power is really good for us. I'm glad we got that. There's our time warp. There's 2+5 doesn't really do much. Except for early card draw. So let's just get rid of it because with set, he's going to be buffing things. That -1 is irrelevant. I'd rather get like onboard presence and just use removal like that. And yeah, I guess Cruel Patron. Cruel Patron is good because it triggers like, ooh, nice. The reason I run Cruel Patron because there's like an upside into sacrificing your Death Knell abilities with Karthus on board, so you're not just like trying to pop off with 2 Death Knells, but rather you're also developing a 6 might unit. It's a bit gimmicky, right? It's a long shot, but it's worked so far, honestly. It's not that bad. Alright, so we're in good position right now. The issue is he did ramp up. But if I can commit, if I'm safe for this turn, right? If he doesn't commit into dropping big dudes and Snapvine disrupts me a lot, but still salvageable. I do have a lot of things that counteract. The thing is he can't buff his stuff. Like if he starts buffing his things, then I'm in trouble. So he commits to a set, which is telegraphs. He doesn't really have much in hand, honestly. Maybe some fight stuff like challenge, and he would have played the ramp by now, or he probably has Dazzling Aurora in hand. Doesn't have enough runes to play it. If Dazzling Aurora drops, I just have to be like really like okay. No, there's the Mistfall. Sorry. Okay. Alright, so it is buffed. I do have a retreat, which is awesome. Let's commit to let's commit to a Lux. Right, because I can tap this and play Falling Comet next turn. I can even retreat it. We are developing, so we look actually pretty good. He's at 9, so he can technically, and he has 3 orange, so he can play Dazzling Aurora if he wanted to. If he commits to this fight here, I'll obviously Falling Comet. If he has a way to buff it, then it enters ready, and then you can come back here. But I'll just withdraw Reverse Row and conquer Obelisk of Power next turn. Alright, there's the Harnessed Dragon. Okay. What is it targeting? Is it targeting my Lux? Do I want to draw? I will tap. Right? Floating. So then I still have 4, and I could commit to saving it. Alright, so I still have the 4 floating, so if he moves in with set into Reaver's Row, where my Eager Apprentice is at, I can still remove it, draw a card as well, which is really good. Alright, so I do have to choose it. I don't want to activate it, and then I want to stack up on damage with action speed. Right, so that happens. Gets removed. He's gonna tap his set, bring it back. However, he can't buff it, so it does not enter ready because of Mistfall. So it's looking really good for us so far. I do just need to hold a couple turns, and I can pop Time Warps and start drawing 2 cards. So that was like a really good turn for us. Yeah, that was a really good turn for us. All right, so there's even committing into singularity this turn is really good. Right? I think that's what I want to do. I think I commit to a singularity, clean up his side of the board, nice and tight. Uh, keeps him from buffing them and using sensibility to bring him back. I do have two floating, or sorry, one floating, so I can commit a so 4, and then an energy conduit maybe, or a Heimerdinger, so I can double up. So if he tries to like I don't know, challenge like a Lux or something, I can double down with a Heimerdinger. So that's good. Looks like we hold next turn. If I can double hold, so I get to 4, I conquer 5, and then by 5, if I time warp, I should be able to win the game. Easy, easy, easy. But it all depends on what he does. Oh, sorry, so he drops Harness Dragon again, committing all of his power. Dude, like he's got 2 power gone. So I can still double up with Heimerdinger into Lux, right? I think he knows my game plan at this point. So what I'm gonna do, if I conquer, I can time warp. And I get to 7, and there's no way, and then I'll remove it. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna commit into conquering here, right? I score a point. Right? I'm at 5. Dude, I did it. I did it. I win. I win. I win. I tap Lux, right? I commit into Time Warp. I gain another turn. I draw a card because of Lux abilities. It is happening. It is happening. It is happening. I end my turn. I can even drop down a Soaring Scout. I end my turn. It becomes my turn. I double up on points. I will remove. I'm sorry. If he does battlefield. I'm sorry. So it does that at battlefield. But if he decides to move in on a battlefield, then I will just commit Blast of Power, and I should win the game. That's it. I don't need to commit to anything. I just win. I literally just win. There's nothing he could do. He moves in his Harness Dragon, right? He needs to figure out how to get rid of my double hold. Time Warp for the win. We did it. We did it. There's nothing he can do. He has to concede. He can challenge and he can snap. No, he can't. He doesn't even have enough power. That's the only downside with Set, dude. Honestly, the fact that you have to commit a power into summoning your units, and if you're going against it like a control matchup, then you're just like sacked too. There's a challenge. He's gonna target the Lux. Why would he do that? So I'll just float 2, which is fine. Why would he do that? I don't understand. He should have challenged the Eager Apprentice or something. Like, I would have let that happen. Like, that would have, you know, stopped him from losing or potentially losing the game. Well, not, I win anyway. I'm just saying, like, all right, there's the Hidden Blade. He's going to raw hard cast. He's 3 left, 1 floating. I get to draw 2 cards. There's another Time Warp for the Soaring Scout. There's a Mobilize, so he can draw because he's digging into his deck. But he doesn't understand I have Blast of Power for the win. Confront. The next card you play enters ready. So he thinks he can move here, right? And like, what are you doing? You know, I win by holding, right? So we'll just remove that. All right, so he did like a huge misplay. And then I also get to draw. All right, fair, good game though. Good game. If you move there, there's nothing you could have done anyway because I had removal. I also drew another Time Warp. Time Warp for the win. Awesome. Good game, man. Good game. What a silly card, dude. What a crazy card.